Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Devil Heroes, and today I'm going to be bringing you the first installment of the Meta Shift, your weekly guide to the Chess Rush meta. Alright, so jumping in, we're going to start off with the unique and strong tier list. From the top, we have the best unit in the game, Guru. Not only is he a druid, allowing you to pick up some nice synergies, but he lets you level up other units that you haven't found yet. So you're always gonna buy Guru. Some of these other units you just don't have space on your board, so you're not gonna pick them up. But Guru is always gonna be picked up. Warlocks, now we actually have all of the Warlocks on the unique and strong tier list because they're all very strong. We'll get into that at a later point. The Berserker is now added onto the strong tier list. He can be pretty much picked up because of his DPS and the fact that he's a goblin. General Puffer stays on the tier list this week, but he's dropping off a little bit. Still very strong though. General of War along with Sword Dancer are the only units that have stayed from the original tier list. They're still super strong. Leveling up a 3-star General of War isn't suggested, but if you don't have space on your board, you can certainly do it. King of the Sea is a new addition. Shiraka is an absolute monster in this CC meta. And then we have Kraken, was added to the list last week. These three units right here, this triangle in the corner, is, if you're able to get these three units in one team comp, you pretty much win. The way they can basically CC the entire board for over 5 seconds is just monstrous in this game. Sword Dancer is still a pretty strong unit. She's getting outclassed though because of this warrior CC meta kind of going on. But she's still a pretty good unit all around. We have Witch Doctor here because of economic reasons. We'll probably get into that at a later point. Alright, as we mentioned on the unique/strong tier list, basically every single one of their alts is amazing. Maybe the only exception is the 1-star Voodoo Elder alt. It only hits 3 units, so it's not exceptionally strong, but Voodoo Elder is a goblin, so he's just great early, and then once he levels up, he starts to do massive CC. 2 of 4 Warlocks, as mentioned in some of the previous tier lists, is extremely strong. The only real thing you need to worry about when you're running Warlocks is you need a little bit of a front line before you can start running them. The good thing about Warlocks though is that they're all just very strong units, so placing them in by themselves is pretty smart. The other bonus is that Voodoo Elder and Marsh Lord, your 2 early Warlocks, are a goblin and beast respectively, so they're going to be giving you additional synergies before you get to the Warlock buff itself. So you're pretty much always looking to pick these up. Although the Misfortune and Void Doom were originally suggested to always have as your late game Warlocks, now with the Goblin synergy buff and Marsh Lord being seen to be one of the best units because of the extra damage and health they can put on the board from his ultimate, it's kind of suggested that you can that you don't need to force the Misfortune and the Void Doom anymore. Alright, coming in essentially at tier 1 is going to be the 6 Warriors and 3 Hunters comp. This build has a very strong early game. You're really not sacrificing anything by building up a strong front line. You can pretty much go into any build from the 3 warrior start. The Banger, Ice Tusk, and General Puffer and Wukong are going to show up pretty early, and more often than not, you're going to be able to actually get the 3 warrior buff going into the first PvP round. If you aren't able to pick up all 6 warriors plus the 3 hunters, you can look for like a mix of 3 to 5 warriors, 3 hunters, and then 2 extra warlocks. The one other thing you need to remember when running this comp is you're looking to either run the furry buff or the beast buff, one or the other. You don't really want to pick both, because you're going to just be you're basically just going to be lacking in extra synergy. The furry buff is extremely strong early and will definitely carry you, while the beast buff gets increasingly better as the game goes on. You really want to have Stalker Drone as one of your hunters, and then the other thing to mention is the fact that you can run the CC comp with this. If you get the General of War, the Kraken, and the King of the Sea, this makes this team comp like even stronger than just like the standard, because you're able to lock down the enemy team for so long. If you run this, especially with Hog Rider, you can just add in an additional rider to get just a little extra, juice for your comp. Maybe adding in a Templar or Calamity for human or undead buff, respectively. Another thing you can do is if you have the full 6 warriors and 3 hunters, you can add a Misfortune in, hopefully to get the undead buff and a little extra sustain from her ulti, because you're missing out on the warlock buff. Basically, any mixture of warriors and hunters is going to be pretty strong and will get you into the top 3 almost every game because of its strong early, mid, and late game composition. Punishers are a very versatile build. You're able to pretty much go anywhere with them, with the options to go riders, hunters, possibly warriors. Although it's a little tougher to go warriors than the other ones. You can pretty much do anything with them. They're going to be extremely strong just about any portion of the game. There is one very big drawback, though, is that you can't really start building this comp until you get the Nightingale and the Devourer. So if you don't find these units early, I really suggest you don't look for additional demons until you get those two. Those Punishers allow you to build up other demons on your board when otherwise you wouldn't be able to. My suggestion is never to be picking up more than 2 demons. So if you're running, if you happen to be running a rider comp, don't pick up a Lilith, a Nether Prince, or an Executioner until you have the Nightingale and the Devourer. Don't look to run the Punisher comp after round 15 if you don't have those 2 units, because otherwise you're basically just wasting your bench space on other units you could possibly pivot into. All around an amazing build if you're able to get the Nightingale and Devourer. Maybe the only drawback is if you have a 1-star Devourer almost the entire game, then you might not win. But it's just a very strong build all around. The next build we have is 6 humans and 6 sorcerers. You're going to get you're relying on a little bit of RNG towards the end of the game. Hopefully getting your Lightbringer or Templar or even the Werewolf to get a double ult can seriously affect the game. If you get 2 Lightbringer ults off, you could possibly get 3. There's like a 25% chance with 6 humans that you ult once, you get a reset, and then you ult again. So you get 3 Lightbringer ults, which can clear an entire team. We say it's RNG based, but they have very strong units in the team comp, so you're able to you're able to win even without like insane RNG. It's a little tough mid and early because you don't really have too much of a synergy going on. In addition, the sorcerer buff was nerfed slightly in the last patch, but this is a fun build to go, to be honest. It really feels great when it works. Unlike some of the other builds, though, it does require some very specific positioning. You need to go into like what we call cornering, where you put your mages in the like the corner over here, you know, and then you've got your front line where my arm is to block off all the damage they can take. And then in addition, when your mages do damage, they just like shoot all their damage out at the enemy front line. So those like hand signals I did were pretty awesome. I know we'll hopefully get a video specifically on how these things work though. Just one last thing though. If you're able to get the Dragoon and the Templar in this build and get them leveled up, that's a great front line, as well as the General of War. Getting 2 General of War alts from your tank line is basically gonna win you the game. Unfortunately though, we do have to mention Cyborgs because a lot of people are still, trying to go Cyborgs. I don't particularly want to put it on my tier list, but I know people are still going to run Cyborgs, so I want to give you guys a couple suggestions. This is literally the bottom of the tier list. It's one of the like last somewhat viable comps, and I say somewhat, like just barely. It does still have the great early game, and if you're able to get a 2-star legendary of one of the engineers, you can absolutely win the game. But the mid game is terrible. It hurts when I'm thinking about some of the mid games I've had with engineers. You can't re-roll ever. The mid game is absolutely terrible. You can't re-roll your mana crystals until you get to pretty much level 9. If you're forced into re-rolling around level 8, you have only 1% chance of getting the units you want versus I believe a 3% chance per roll at level 9. So you're not able to find good units in the mid game, and you punish yourself if you have to burn all your mana crystals and hyper roll early. Because of this though, I just want to suggest like the way to run Cyborg is like you'll keep your 3 Cyborg and 2 Engineer buff on the field with some of your higher star units, and then I would like you to be running preferably Assassin, because you're almost always gonna have a Bionic Ninja, and then the Assassins are pretty strong unit, the 3 combo Assassin buff. Don't force yourself into keeping your Cyborgs on the field because they're relatively weak. You're going to swap out your Cyborgs once you get the 6th one. So you'll keep the Cyborgs on the bench and then put them on around level 8 or level 9. Don't run Cyborgs though. I'm gonna say that after explaining this to you guys, but like if you're forced into it, you're forced into it. Look to pivot from Cyborgs early is basically what I'm trying to say. Every week we're going to be giving you a meta shift pick of the week. This is going to be a very strong comp that I believe is flying under the radar. And this week it's going to be Fury Warrior / Hunter. You might be like, oh, Devil, but you said that Warrior Hunter is like one of the best builds in the game. I did say that, but the thing is that right now people think that 2 of the key units in the furry comp are bad, so they're almost never picking them. Those 2 units are Banger and Starhorn, and here's the thing you got to remember about them. These 2 units actually are very anti-meta picks. So Banger is able to actually, especially against all these warriors now, when he casts his ult, and he casts it in a large AoE area, during that ult duration, those units can't actually use their ultimates. On top of that, Starhorn, the other unit, which is usually considered to be bad, casts an AoE ult for a few seconds in this, chain CC meta that can stop them from casting their ultimates as well. They also are able to get you the furry buff much easier than usual because people aren't buying these units. The 4 furry buff turns a 1-star unit into a 2-star unit because of its HP. The average 1-star unit has about 2,000 health, and so when you get the 4 furry buff, the maybe a 1-star Wukong or a 1-star Banger now gets double the amount of health and is able to tank much better. in addition, you're able to put the Starhorn in the back too, then, and tank up any assassins that the enemy team has, while building up the Starhorn's mana pool very quickly, silencing any grouped up enemies towards the end. The other great thing about this build, I believe, is that like you shouldn't feel forced into going furries. So this is a little lame, I'm not gonna lie, because you can still go into that 6 warrior, 6 hunter build if you don't end up finding the Starhorn. So the final most ideal build for the furry warrior hunter build is going to be Banger, Wukong, General of War, Kraken, King of the Sea or Shrakaka, and then your Fire Fur. You must get the Starhorn to kind of complete the 4 synergy buff for furries, and then my favorite is going to be adding in 2 Warlocks, but you can also add in 2 Riders or even the 6 Warrior buff. But I believe that with the Warlock buff, you're going to be getting the most juice out of this build. Overall, I just want to reiterate that the reason I think furry is so strong in the current meta is because people aren't choosing them, and the synergy is a lot stronger than people give it credit for, especially early and mid game. I've had a lot of success winning with this build actually, and I think that you guys can as well. If you enjoyed the Meta Shift Volume 1, hit that like and subscribe button. I stream mostly daily on Twitch on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be coming out with these videos, like I said, weekly. Stay tuned. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you very much. Take care.